Why did we succeed very well? Because we had a very unified coordination from the top to the bottom.
We saw, a president in the first term who was very relaxed, very, easy, who was with the people, happy-go-lucky. And we saw a more in charge, deputy president who knew projects, who knew how much money to detail.
There were reasonable, meaningful party meetings, parliamentary group meetings, and especially whenever the government wanted to get support of members of parliament, it would have meaningful consultations.
His deputy was a hands-on man who would easily be sent to go to, Mandera, Wajir, or wherever, any part of the country, to go and see that project. In fact, that's why when the president second time said kutangatanga, this man who tangatangas, we took it in jest.
Did that make the deputy president too powerful to the extent that he threatened the core of the presidency?
Those who say that the deputy president became more powerful, overshadowed the president, do not understand how power works.
Kenyatta and Ruto were at the time facing charges of crimes against humanity at the International Criminal Court, ICC.
The case is at a critical juncture.
And while Kenyatta was never put to his defense, his case would collapse in December 2014, with ICC prosecutors accusing the Kenyan government of failing to cooperate in providing crucial evidence. The ICC withdrew the charges.
So half of our first term, they had no choice. They had to deal with ICC.
Because of the threat that we were facing with ICC, I think a lot of effort was put forth by the president and his deputy to prove to the world that we were not a pariah state.
President Uhuru Kenyatta, I think, was the first one who was off the hook. Then we had to deal with the case of the deputy president, then he was out of the hook.
In April 2016, as the administration marked 3 years in office, Ruto too was let go after the ICC found the prosecution's case insufficient. It was a celebration for the ones of Campus 6 who assembled in Nakuru to celebrate Ruto's freedom and that of co-accused radio journalist Joshua Sang. It would later emerge not everyone was rejoicing.
Around 2015-2016, the group that now have done what they've done in the second term started thinking at 2017 elections without William Ruto. Okay? And even plans came up about how do we age DP out of the show. One watershed moment was the fact that the president was released by ICC and the deputy was still proceeding and his case proceeded. As soon as that happened, a number of government officers retreated from the diplomatic work that they were doing towards explaining the situation of Kenya in ICC. And a number of us who are in political circles would tell what was happening. And most of the people who now, this cabal that wanted to age out the DP in 2017, started this plan of we want Ruto, we want Uhuru, we don't want Ruto. They are the ones who went to procure actually. You've heard something called Cambridge Analytica. Mm-hmm. Yeah, those are the kind of people who came, they went procured a Cambridge Analytica. They did some fake opinion polls and they said Uhuru alone, if we sell Uhuru alone, it sells. If we sell with Ruto, we will not win elections in 2017. So they started building a narrative towards removing the DP from his running mate of the president. But now it became so difficult when the reality and the facts and figures came to the table. But before that, they stopped now focusing on the ICC issue. We made a lot of noise and we planned a huge prayer rally in a place called Kiptororo. As soon as we organized that prayer rally, the reality now hit those who were in office that the people were serious, that there was betrayal was setting in, and we began to see that these characters want the DP to remain in ICC so that the president can come out and then they can now do their succession plan.
How are they going to ensure that he remains at the ICC?
When you don't have diplomatic processes going on, then there was a general feeling that we should find ways and means of frustrating the case. Let's put it that way. And hopefully it will contribute to DP's case going on beyond 2017 for us to make a case that the president, now that he doesn't have a case in ICC, needs a deputy who doesn't have a case, or that if the case was to proceed and DP be found culpable, it was going to be the easy way of them to offload the DP out of this partnership.
And the DP was aware of this?
It's not just DP aware of it, we made the president aware of it ourselves.
But with the ICC chains off the ankles of Kenyatta and Ruto, true colors started showing within the Jubilee coalition.
They kept saying that why don't we replace the DP with Gideon Moi or Mudavadi or something like that.
People say around the president are saying that he's not the one in charge. But then they also had to win the elections in 2017. And I think that is where things started changing.
At the time, the opposition that never made peace with the 2013 Supreme Court decision upholding Kenyatta's election was lighting fires against the Jubilee government, accusing it of runaway corruption, discrimination and ethnicity.
Yes. That is the worst run government ever in Kenya. And it will remain so, in my opinion, because first you know that the president and his deputy were so much preoccupied with ICC issues. The first 2 years, it's like they didn't know what was happening in the country. And some other characters took advantage of that, including the deputy president himself.
How so?
Because some of the mega issues in form of corruption happened in that period of time. Some of the mismanagement of the economy happened at that time, that period of time. Now it's just what we are feeling today are the effects of the mismanagement that happened in the first term of Jubilee.
But how would you blame the deputy president, yet Uhuru Kenyatta was the president?
But most of the things were being associated with him, either through in the press or in the public domain or in the public sphere.
Wajiuzulu! Wajiuzulu!
Despite mounting suspicion within the ruling coalition, Kenyatta and Ruto were in agreement on one thing, a joint desire for a second term.
We had a plan to make sure that we extend that unity to the rest of the country in the first 5 years of Jubilee administration, which we managed. We collapsed 14 political parties into one Jubilee party. And apart from that, we expected even our competitors to follow suit, so that ultimately the country can have two strong political formation based on ideology.
The coalition was expanded ahead of the 2017 election, with at least 12 parties folding up to form the new Jubilee Party.
You needed to be sure that you don't have other formations other than what is predictable. And that is why the collapse of these 14 political parties was critical, and especially so when those individuals were also promised to be included in government. So you had people like Eugene Omalwa, who had then become a cabinet secretary.
And I don't think it was ideally good for Jubilee to collapse into one party, if you ask me. Because you can see now it is going back to where it was. Because the coming together was not, the foundation was not based on ideology. It was based on winning an election.
Within the new party, though, there was disquiet. In barely 7 months, the infant party was required to conduct nominations to pick candidates for the general election.
Wale watu ambao wanataka kusimama kwa vyeo kutoka MCA mpaka mjumbe mpaka senator mpaka governor, mutaenda kwa wananchi, wale ndio watawapatia kura. Hiyo ndivyo itakuwa.
Chaotic party primaries would be the first failed test of the new party. Deputy President Ruto took control of the running of the primaries, offering the much-needed direction.
In the background, the Deputy President wanted to position his men and women everywhere in position for their succession. Now, if you remember the first attempt to do Jubilee nominations, the reason they backfired, and then there was a repeat. Where they backfired is a lot of popular people won, but they were not amenable to the schemes, the connivings, and the planning of the DP. So they had to be cancelled and we had to repeat.
That is how many good candidates got lost. The shambolism that we witnessed there and then is what caused, the furore. It was the beginning of the furore you are seeing here.
I'll give an example, Mount Kenya. Most of the popular candidates or credible leaders are actually out. And the people the DP wanted are in.
That's a very cheap explanation. It's very petty, actually. It's the pettiest of them all. So you want to tell me that all the others who are not moving with the deputy president came in independently, right? And these ones who are working with the deputy president came in because he helped them.
There was a feeling that DP William Ruto was looking at his foot soldiers for 2022. So it was said that he actually pushed through people who he would have wanted to stand with him in 2022.
Swept out in the nominations, dozens of Jubilee candidates opted to vie as independent candidates, but most of them still lost in the August 8th polls. On the 29th May 2017, President Kenyatta and his deputy William Ruto officially kicked off their campaign for a second term.
And we are hopeful, and God willing, the people of Kenya will give us another opportunity to continue the good work we've started.
Raila Odinga was for the second time their main challenger.
How would you describe the mood of the campaign, the presidential campaign towards the August 8th, 2017?
It was celebratory. I think I have never seen unity of purpose, energies, and all of that. We were one united team.
Months before the election, Kenyatta's close political associate was already looking ahead, warning of a second term that he promised would see a new, different Kenyatta.
David Morada, you remember, a statement he made, he said that
we'll see him in his true colors. Right now, he was still wooing the chick. Now the chick will be in the house. Now she will see the man in his true colors. And the guy will nyorosha this place. That you can take to the bank. Oh yeah. He's been a bit kid gloves. What I'm saying is that in the next administration, it will be gloves off, to be bare knuckles. And it doesn't matter whether you're his brother, whether you're his friend.
I took it as a very reckless statement.
The Uhuruto ticket garnered 54% against Odinga's 44% in the polls. But the Supreme Court, in a historic decision, nullified the presidential election, citing irregularities and illegalities. The election was nullified just a day after the new parliament was sworn in 31st of August 2017 and 2 days after newly elected Jubilee legislators had congregated at State House, where the first telltale signs of President Kenyatta's second-term style became bare.
So we had a meeting in the State House, the first Jubilee parliamentary group. A State House.
I saw indications that there's something which is not going right.
There was excitement among the newly elected MPs and all of us anyway, but particularly newly elected, and there are many, that finally they are coming to State House. They thank God they are in the winning party. Now we have come to government. They were coming to learn how government works.
For me, that PG was a bit different.
Duale stood up to welcome the president, and before he could speak, he was told to sit down. And from now on, the parliamentary group shall be addressed by the SG, not you.
And then he made remarks that made all of us feel like, well, did we deserve this?
Then he goes on a lecture, a serious lecture on how we will see him. He will decampaign members of parliament. Those of you who've been going around with the DP and the DP sitting there, now you will know I'm in charge. And I want everyone to, if you don't follow what I'm going to say, I'll come to decampaign you.
Agenda is myself. As the president, as the party leader, you will do my agenda. And I want you to give me 4 years. And after the 4 years, it will be now on the 4th year, I will pick up the mantle and start campaigning for my brother, William Ruto. That's what he told us in the State House.
It was a lecture. Call it a lecture. You know, the way parents would lecture their kids. It was a lecture.
How would you describe his language?
His language was foul. His language was very bad. It wasn't presidential. A language of demeaning, a language of who the hell do you think you are? How can you even imagine? You know.
The language was also not very children friendly. Let me put it that way. He was a bit harsh. He was using very heavy words, and I was even shocked myself.
One of the things that the president said is that this is my government. Anybody who wants to discuss or organize a government, they should go out, get out. The door is open. The gate is wide open.
Later I realized why the president was a bit worked up. Was that in that morning before the PG, there was a meeting of Mount Kenya leaders, you know, chaired by, I think, Moses Kuria and Kindiki. The president, you know, wants to be, and always been, to be in charge of that region.
In that meeting of members of parliament from Central Kenya,
it was a very good meeting.
How many were you?
We could have been maybe close to 50.
The agenda to have the deputy president supported in 2022, was it discussed?
That was not a main agenda. And that was, by the way, because we cannot sit like people who are not political.
So it was discussed?
It was discussed that if he would be running, we would be supporting him.
How would you describe the mood of the deputy president during that?
The deputy president was just quiet. He seemed to possibly be in the same, I don't know, but he didn't speak, so you can't tell whether he was just there.
It's like a person who had stomached some pressure for 4 or 5 years, and he wanted now to release. Time had come. Then, the next day, Maraga and team nullified the elections.
It was 1st of September. Anxiety gripped the Jubilee campaign machinery.
Around 4 a.m., 5 a.m., I was woken up and I was told things are not going good for you guys. So from 4 a.m., I drove myself in town, met a number of people. It was a very, very sad morning. And on one side, people were telling us, no, you know what? We are doing very well. Things are good. Another side, things are not very, very good. So we all converged at the office of the Deputy President.
The re-election of Kenyatta had been nullified in a landmark ruling. The transmission of results had missed the legal threshold.
The court was satisfied that the first respondent committed irregularities and illegalities inter alia in the transmission of results, rendering the declared results invalid, null, and void.
We drove to State House, few of us, because we had to go and confront our boss. The Deputy President was already there. And you remember, the President came around midday, spoke to the nation.
I disagree with it, because as I have said, millions of Kenyans queued, made their choice, and 6 people have decided that they will go against the will of the people.
But it was a day, I can compare it maybe if Mzee Moi was alive, it was maybe like the coup of 1982, you know? Because we won that election. If you ask me today, that election we won.
At this time, the National Super Alliance NASA was celebrating. It was a shocker victory for them.
This is a president-setting ruling.
And for once we saw and we got confidence in the institutions that run this country, the judiciary and other institutions that run this country.
A day after the Supreme Court decision, the President met Jubilee governors and members of county assemblies, and he was livid.
We have a problem with our judiciary, but regardless, we respect but we shall revisit.
Na sasa tuko na nafasi ya kuwaambia ya kwamba rais haamuliwi kotini.
William Ruto focused on restarting the campaign for a repeat election order to be held within 2 months.
We went to Bama Market, eat some meat, just to make sure that that was not the end of the world. I mean, we still have the support, our people are there, we were ready for an election.
A president who had a few days earlier been angry at his MPs now needed their support for his election rerun.
We went back to the old president, the nice guy, came and spoke nicely to us, apologized to everybody, said, oh, you know, it seems I used very strong language the other day, I'm sorry.
He appealed to members to support his campaigns and that he would expect the team to go as one team, and we did exactly that.
The country at the time was trending on shaky ground. The National Super Alliance resolved to boycott the election.
We hereby withdraw our candidature with immediate effect. Yours faithfully, signed Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, Honorable Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka.
The Jubilee House remained united on the message.
We tell him also it is the people's right to participate in an election to choose their leader.
We are ready for the elections with or without the NASA candidate on the 26th of October this year, and the people of Kenya will decide.
But the election went on, President Kenyatta winning 98% of the vote in a voter turnout of just 39%, the lowest in 2 decades. Most NASA strongholds boycotted the election, with violence reported in some areas. 2 petitions were lodged at the Supreme Court contesting the validity of the election, where not all voters got the chance to participate. The Supreme Court finding that the NASA boycott did not affect the validity of the vote.
Hereby introduce and wish to bring to the people of Kenya the President-elect, Honorable Uhuru Kenyatta.
And on the 28th of November, President Kenyatta and his deputy William Ruto took the oath for their second and final term.
I, Uhuru Kenyatta.
I, William Samoei Ruto.
An end had justified the means, but there was no celebration.
When it comes to Jubilee, rest.
The opposition alliance quickly crafted a response to agitate for what they termed electoral justice against a fierce state using the police power to quell dissent. A country was in turmoil for months on end. The opposition threatened to hold parallel swearing-in for their lineup. Despite false starts, Odinga eventually turned up at Uhuru Park for mock swearing-in.
I, Raila Amolo Odinga, uphold sovereignty, integrity, and dignity of the people of Kenya. So help me God.
Immediately sparking off a war with the state, several of his allies were arrested and charged with, among other offenses, treason. Lawyer Miguna would have it rough, ending up deported to Dubai, later finding his way to Canada.
The oath taken by Raila Odinga, where is it covered in the Constitution?
Why was he not taken to court then, if it was not constitutional?
I think that even the swearing in was against the law, and the Right Honourable Raila Odinga should obviously have been ignored further or face the law.
All this time, the Uhuruto government remained calm, but the differences were clear when the second cabinet was named.
They must prove themselves worthy of the trust Kenyans will have bestowed on them.
I saw the president announcing 6 members of his cabinet who served in the previous cabinet alone.
So when you look at the current cabinet of the second term, how much influence or control does the deputy president have?
He has had control up to sometime August last year, whereby he had key ministries to his friends, either as ministers or permanent or principal secretaries. But I know many of them actually were shifted to lesser influential departments, which was necessary in order to achieve what the president needs to achieve, because he realized they are not walking the journey together.
Who are these?
And the president and the deputy were not in the journey together. That's what I mean.
I'm asking about these ministers and principal secretaries.
You check around, you don't know them.
I think he wanted all the cabinet secretaries to know that he's the appointing authority. In my opinion, he was trying to say, the buck stops with me. This is my government. Because there was a way in which also, in the model that the two of them, presented to us, cabinet secretaries maybe were owing allegiance to the deputy president. Maybe because also he was the one who is more accessible, I don't know. And I think he also wanted to cut an image of himself alone.
Where was the deputy president in this, and what was going on at that time?
I think the best person to answer that will be the president. Because, as I told you, by the second term now, things were being done differently, as promised. That the president must look presidential. He must not be seen to be working with the deputy. He must take charge. My father used to tell us even, the president must be as tough. His father used to cane people. He must be ready. He must be a tough guy. So I guess a better answer would be given from the president himself. Why he made a decision to change his working relationship with his deputy, which has gone on.
But did that tell you anything at that time?
I told you we had seen that way before. So this one was just a confirmation of what was already manifested.
Mm-hmm. And then on the 9th of March 2018, the unexpected happened.
Then I saw the handshake. I said, it is good. The president wants again now to bring the country together.
I believe it was a good decision. I support it because it was good for the country, not for themselves alone. And these are leaders who had very serious and bitterly contested election. Mm-hmm. The country was almost by and large divided in the middle. Many parts of the country didn't support him. So I think it was great wisdom.
Don't you see anything good with that handshake?
It may have brought maybe some calm from one side, but from where the side the president came from, people don't understand why he did that or why he has done that or what he's doing. People don't understand him because nobody has explained.
I kept him abreast of what was going on. He was part and parcel. It's the truth, I'm not lying. Ask him, he's here.
If that information was available, what was the breaking point to the extent that now the deputy president started speaking against the former prime minister, even saying that you chased me from ODM, you're not going to chase me away from Jubilee?
This was the camel story. Let me just put my head in. I want to, just to put my head inside the house, then slowly my arm, and then, slowly to the rest of the body. As this thing progressed, it moved from bringing the country together to a constitutional review process, to even at that point in time, a suggestion that we should form a government of national unity. There was also the issue of, as a result of this story of the handshake, you remember they all effort, they wanted to impeach the deputy president. They even met at Serena, issued a statement that was edited. Initially it was saying you should be impeached, you should resign, and then they said you take responsibility.
In public, President Kenyatta defended the handshake as the only solution to country's electoral and political challenges.
We have never, for one day, spoken about 2022 with Raila. So I am surprised when I start seeing people, I don't know, we are talking about things that we believe if we can fix them, we have fixed them for generations to come.
Ruto's base was not convinced.
I don't think that is what there was. There is something more. In my view, there is something more than, because why fail to engage even the closest people that formed the government with you, that worked to put the government in place with you? What is it that you don't want them to know?
I should have been the last person to send an alarm. So for 2 years, 2017, 2018, up to 2019, I was telling people everything is on, everything is good. The president wants to leave a legacy. The president wants to unite the country. You guys Some people felt, no, I think the president is playing politics of deceit, politics of betrayal. Can we reorganize, redefine our strategy for 2022? The opposition said we have an opportunity to divide this house, isolate William Ruto, collapse Jubilee, so that come 2022, we are in a better position than they were in 2013 and 2017.
Well, first, I don't believe the deputy president trusted the president in the first place, because if he did, he would not have gone ahead to start planning the succession the way he has been doing.
And you see a deputy president who is very vocal out here and speaking against the role of Raila Odinga within government. What was driving this, and what was the thinking of the president's corner?
Well, those of us who know what you are asking, anytime you hear the deputy president mentioning about Raila or complaining about the Raila and calling him those adjectives, it is not Raila he's condemning. He's condemning his boss. Because Raila did not invite himself into the handshake. Actually, the president said it is him who looked out for Raila. The deputy president has a beef with his boss, not about Raila.
The handshake journey that has ended up in the current building bridges conversation, whose signature collection is on, appears to have rocked the Jubilee boat from the outside, a boat now slowly but surely capsizing. But the biggest casualty has been the glue that stuck Uhuruto together. Bromance has been replaced by mistrust. In January 2019, President Kenyatta issued Executive Order No. 1, appointing Interior CS Fred Matiang'i chair of the National Development and Communication Committee. This appointment was seen as a slight on the deputy president.
For the purposes of coordination and the success of this administration, the president needed somebody else other than the deputy to steer the course of the direction of coordination of government.
The main objective of that Executive Order No. 1 was to fast-track the Big Four agenda. So I don't know some, because from where I stand in Parliament, Big Four is stillborn.
I don't even see Matiang'i himself opening those or engaging properly with the people. You see, you need a profile also. You need a profile. Personally, I wouldn't invite Matiang'i for any government project in my constituency, if it is me who is working on it.
How much of that executive order do you think has impacted on the relationship of the president and his deputy?
The position of the deputy president is anchored in the constitution, not in an executive order. The deputy president is the principal assistant of the president.
So how active has he been?
But in terms of perception, of course, it has created a negative perception. The deputy president has been sidelined. But those are part of the...
Has he or not?
Has he?
Has he been sidelined or not?
I think that's a question you should put it to him.
You're his friend.
Yeah, I am his friend, but he can answer better whether he's comfortable. I mean, I know him as a man of a lot of patience, He waits, so you can't read even his body language, what he's feeling inside.
The president's second-term agenda of food security, manufacturing, affordable housing, and universal health coverage was appearing to falter, but supportive voices were coming from the most unlikely quarters, the opposition.
It's the greatest idea that has happened in Jubilee government, because I told you Jubilee was coming from a scenario of the right hand not knowing what the left hand is doing. After realizing that, and the president himself realizing that, he decided to form this committee to coordinate the functions of his government. I'm not sure, because I'm not in government, but if they can share with us, they will tell you the difference is like day and night. The kind of achievement they have done since that committee was put in place, and when it was not there, it was, the country, the government was running, like a headless chicken before that committee came into place.
DP Ruto's troubles continue to deepen, extending into intrigues within cabinet. In June 2019, 4 cabinet secretaries were summoned to the Directorate of Criminal Investigations to record statements of an alleged assassination plot against Ruto.
At no time have we ever met anywhere, not just in Lamanda or anywhere else, to plan to kill the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya.
Then came the apparent weaponization of the war on corruption. In June 2017, Murathe had fired a telling warning.
If anybody thinks they can walk in the final term of Uhuru with anything that smells of corruption, I'm very sorry of him. I know this is somebody who will go even after his own friends like David Murathe. If I ever get involved in anything in the next term, that will be his legacy.
In the second term, the fight against corruption gained momentum with the arrival of DPP Nuruddin Haji and DCI George Kinoti. Soon after, Haji and Kinoti pursued high-profile corruption cases involving cabinet secretaries, principal secretaries, heads of parastatals. DP Ruto was incensed.
I have been opposed from day one to criminal investigations being profiled in the media, because for purposes of ensuring that these investigations are credible and they are not politicized, they are supposed to be professional.
Ruto's allies smelt politics and betrayal and what they considered broken promises.
If the purpose is to make him invisible or to reduce his contact with the voters, I think that it has failed totally.
Hii ni ile ya kuhandover, unajua? Si ndio? Inaitwa relay. Unakimbia ule mwingine anakugojea pale, anatakikana kukugojea ndio ashike aendelee, si ndio? Lakini sasa my brother William hapa amepinduka, anakimbia nyuma. Nikasema mosmos, utafika tu.
He may have put it in a humorous way, but President Kenyatta for the first time spoke of his differences with his deputy. Preceding events were a clear manifestation of broken relations, with Ruto's hustler campaigns running into trouble with the police, and in Kenol Muranga, mob violence.
That's okay, but then do not use the state machinery to abuse the law, cause impunity to thrive in the name of stopping one candidate. That will backfire in the end.
The deputy president was then locked out of the Jubilee House party headquarters and his allies purged from key House leadership positions and committees.
He will no longer be allowed to use the party headquarters to make such statements that are principally for his breakaway faction of the party.
All the while, a former political nemesis, Raila Odinga, had found favor in the heart of the president.
Would it have been handled differently? Because if it's a Uhuruto was a handshake, was it possible to extend the handshake to include Raila without really infuriating the DP? Or was the DP too ambitious to really stomach that handshake?
Remember I told you the DP had a problem of remaining loyal to his boss and also advancing his own ambitions. So what was at stake here? It was Raila running for president. It was him coming into the stables. So he had to make a plan for himself. And the president has said very clearly, like instead of him waiting to be passed on the baton, he started running the opposite direction. An ideal situation would be if Raila and Ruto would agree. Because one is old and he's on his way out. The other one is still young. I mean, how old is Ruto? It's maybe 53, 54? Raila is 75 now. So who has a longer shelf life? I don't know whether that is the desire of the president, but politics will always be ambitious and power abhors vacuum.
So would you say that the vision to have DP Ruto ascend presidency through Jubilee Party is still alive?
Well, that one I cannot visualize that.
What will determine its success?
Well, what happens is that I'm saying things are not, he is not late. he can go and reconcile and say where he had misbehaved, which he had done. He says, I'm sorry. And then maybe the president can open up and they start working together. But this time they have to have Raila on board.
If Jubilee is not available, I don't think the deputy president is short of alternatives. I would imagine he's not dumb, sitting there waiting for Jubilee to be available.
And so for the remaining period, do you think there's a chance of making up things and achieve something, or the milk is already spilled?
In terms of development, in terms of the country? No. The remaining period is for politics. Already, forget about that. You want to tell me that in the next 20 months there's something this government will achieve? It's impossible. That is a mirage. This government should be winding up. You know the way you pack your things, yeah, preparing to go home. This government should just complete the roads to a particular level, complete a few things that they have done before, and salvage the country on debt, restructure, think about how this debt will be restructured.
Some observers say the party is over for Uhuruto and the end is nigh for Jubilee. But others say the political formation will still hold in the end.
Nobody is killing Jubilee. It will be alive and well. Nobody has killed it.
I have asked both of them individually, you guys, what is going on? Mr. President, because the president is a very good friend of mine and the deputy is a pretty good friend of mine. What is going on? I mean, things are not going very well. But each one of them is telling me there's nothing wrong. We are good. So
if the party leader and deputy are not getting along and they are...
No, the Jubilee is not about the party leader and the deputy party leader.
They are the vision bearers of the party.
Yes, but the party is supposed to survive even when they are not there. If it was a strong entity...
What chances do you see of it surviving? Let's be real, Mheshimiwa.
I think when we finish this story, the one we are beginning now, the issue of the BBI, we will see what kind of dispensation that comes out of it.
So officially you can say that Project William Ruto 10 years is almost dead.
But no, I haven't seen that. You know, miracles in politics happen.
I find in politics, there are no permanent enemies and there are no permanent friends. People will be shocked. Raila Odinga and William Ruto might even team up in 2022. And Uhuru Kenyatta, the three of them.
But then there is talk of the beast. William Ruto and his allies call it the deep state.
And they say the deep state always is run by a group of people who are both from the private sector and who are bureaucrats in government. So when those two group of people converge, the main aim is not national security, is not the citizens' interest, it's about how to make profits and how to sustain those who are in power to continue being in power.
Mmezaa mtoto, unaona mtoto amekuwa ni kichaa. Sasa wewe unasema hiyo si mtoto yangu.
And so continue the twists and turns in the maze that once answered to the name Uhuruto. Sam Gituku, Citizen TV.